What is up, everybody? Welcome back into the Shout Podcast. I did say I was going to put out the bat signal to Mr. Mitch Morse on a day that has really rocked the bedrock, the foundation of Bills Mafia. Sean McDermott let go after 9 seasons, 8 of 9 of those in the playoffs. Another disappointing end of the season on Saturday. And this is the direction that the organization is going. And I thought the best person to talk to about this would be Mitch Morse, who played for Sean McDermott for 5 seasons and has a very intimate understanding of this organization. And so, how are you, my friend?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Morse family's had a tumultuous few days.
Ooh.
It started off Friday. The little man went down with influenza A.
No.
And dude, getting rocked. And then Saturday, of course, a gut wrencher in regards to the Bills game. And then Sis goes down with influenza A yesterday. And then we get this pretty, earth-shattering might not be the right word, but it's definitely a cataclysmic comes up at times in my mind. But it's just it's a formidable day in Bills history. And man, sometimes you lack the words to totally describe it. And that's why we're jumping on to see if we can put something to it.
There's a couple of boxes I wanted to try to check. I wanted to get your reaction as somebody that knows Sean, that knows so many players in the organization. I mean, we've seen some of the people reacting to it socially on social media today. I mean, Jordan Phillips, super upset. Taron Johnson. I mean, guys that have played for him, Damar Hamlin. Let's start there. Just as a former player, knowing what he's accomplished there, what he means in the room, all those kinds of things. What's your take on this?
Well, if you look at it, and I think I can probably speak more on the man than I can on anything else, right? As a man, and I've been on record saying this, he was truly exceptional. I think when I first got to Buffalo, the thing that stood out to me was how important family meant not only to him, but to his players. And he tried to implement that. And I think the little things carried a long way, right? Like having your family on off days, you'd always have them running around. Like the kids would be a part of treatment. For a while, dogs were allowed in until there was kind of a scrap between 2 dogs, and then that kind of subsided. But it was more the sentiment, right? Like he understood that, of course, we were there to do a job and that we were professionals through and through. But I think he was cutting edge in regards to realizing that for players to give themselves fully to an organization and to do their jobs to the best of their abilities, they needed to be in a proper mental headspace. And for a lot of us, the way we get there is through our family and spending time with our family. And I appreciate it even more when I had kids. You have walkthroughs on Saturdays where your friends and family can come in and you get to live this dream that you've had, which is seeing your kids run onto the field with you. And he would sit there an hour afterwards if it was a quick turnaround to get on an airplane or whatnot. He had people in town. He would always make sure to go about and see people's families, get to know them. And then you get to know Jamie and their kids, and they're so kind. And I mean, we lived in the same neighborhood for a few years. It was just as a person, he was exceptional. And I've said this 1,000 times before as well, but I feel like I have to reiterate it. He woke up every single day trying to be the best version of himself for his family, for his team. And he did it, and it drove him crazy at times. But that's all you can ask for as your leader, right? A man who, makes mistakes. Sure, we all do. Shit, man, it's crazy, this life we live. But it would accept those, would raise his hand, and try to be a better version. And you see that just through the way he would build relationships with players. And yeah, I mean, you could just talk about it all day and that's what you see with these players who are gutted, right? Like the man himself was exceptional. And that's something that is hard to replicate in this business.
So I want to get into it's a great point on what he's meant to so many people here. I think he's made his imprint in the community as well. I think that was echoed in the statement the Bills released. But the football part of it, we were talking a little bit before we went on, like it's a business, and 9 years to kind of keep at this thing and having the same result. I think the stat is 32 points allowed in the last 6 playoff losses. And I think the dynamic that's been created here with the Bills team, you have this all-world quarterback in Josh Allen that's got it covered on the offensive side. So much so over the last couple of years, they've really leaned into the running game and really, I mean, they have a really great tight end in Dalton Kincaid, 2, Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes has come along, but they've really put an emphasis on building the offensive line and getting things right over there. The idea is in the build, I think, is to have a defensive coordinator backgrounded head coach who has things kind of squared away on the other side. And I think the biggest criticism of him over the length of his time here is that in some of the biggest moments in the playoffs, when the losses have come up, it's been the defense that maybe hasn't done its part. Now, it's interesting because this last game, I thought the defense got things going in the second half. You have all those turnovers on the offensive side of the ball, but then you look up at the final score, and it's another game where you've given up 33 points in a playoff loss. So how do you square all of that, and how much do you think that just at this point, change almost is a product of change because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again expecting different results?
I think that plays the biggest role in this whole thing, right? We were talking about, like you were saying off air, and the thing about the NFL is the predictable thing to happen in the NFL is the unpredictable. You have a stalwart who's been there for 9 years, done such a great job getting this franchise to, to new heights and a place they haven't been to since the 90s. Yeah, I think last game was an interesting one, especially with that 30 points, right? Like you have 5 turnovers. If you can hold it to 30 points after 5 turnovers is actually a pretty large feat, which is hard to say. Yeah. And this is the part where I'm a little timid because there's certain things I just don't know. And I'm pretty unabashful about that. But all right. So if you're looking forward to defensive guys, my biggest thing is there's so many offensive talents, like so many offensive minds in the NFL, in my opinion, much more than defensive minds. And that might not be true. It just seems to be the case. The grass isn't always greener. That being said, I'm sure there's certain things that even who I feel like I've tapped in a little bit with the organization, there might be things behind the scenes we just don't know. And, the grass might be greener for Sean on the other end, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Like you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about being a coach, and you have these gut-wrenching moments. It's often like if you're moved on as a player or such, that it's a growing experience. It's extremely painful. But who's to say that he doesn't go on and do unbelievable things? I truly believe so. I know that's not answering your question by any means. This is kind of a word vomit session by myself.
Okay. We're here for.
I just have so many questions that I feel like will be answered, of course. But
what are some of those questions? Let me ask you that.
Some of those questions would just be like, who's next, right? So I love Joe Brady. I do, and he is going to be a head coach. He's going to be a damn good one in this league. I truly believe it. He's one of my best buddies. But if you ask him to step up in this role, like you have relationships with players at a certain level, and then you become this authoritative figure. Like if you have to change it all, it definitely stresses relationships, especially when you already have one. Right? And now he's already done it. He's already gone from a quarterback's coach to an OC and done it beautifully, but it's a whole different ballgame at the top. Do you bring in another guy who's, I don't know. If you're looking at defensive guys, a name that comes to mind is Anthony Campanelli, the defensive coordinator here in Jacksonville. I think he's a young guy, done a very good job. Consistency is so important in the NFL, but also at the same time, it's one of these things that seeing the news, I was gutted, but it wasn't shocking just because you know how this thing goes. Do you bring Brian Daboll back? I just don't know. I just don't know. And you know what? Maybe there's people who do, and we'll be laughing about this in a year because Sean will get a new gig and be doing a fantastic job rebuilding an organization or having someone who's already there and doing a great job. And a new guy comes in here and performs admirably. I don't know. I just don't know.
So let's take a moment and dive into the dynamics of the organization right now, because this is a big change in organizational structure and org chart. And when Sean and Brandon came in together, and it wasn't together. Sean was hired first, and then Brandon was hired shortly after. Sean did his first draft with Doug Whaley still as the general manager. And the big how it was set up was both of them reported directly to Terry Pagula, and neither one of them kind of had oversight over the other, and it was kind of a collaboration for a long time. It really worked well. This season, it's felt like there's been more tension between those two components in the organization than there's ever been before. I mean, we even saw it from Sean in some of the comments through the media over the course of the season, bringing up the Jacoby Myers trade, the fact that Jacksonville landed that, and maybe subconsciously being upset that the Bills didn't land that. They were in on that. Asked if it was a championship roster, like Brandon Beane said it was. Said he just loves the players, didn't really give that kind of his vote of confidence. And then the Darius Slay situation, which I thought was handled poorly. Like from a media perspective, I thought what Brandon was trying to do, and I made this argument on the show, was improve the position. Because if you look at years past, Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram, Levi Wallace, the veteran kind of Sean McDermott guys have struggled in big spots in the playoffs. So I think what Brandon was trying to do was bring in a proven player that if there was an injury, like there was in this game this last weekend, you throw somebody out there that's got a little bit more, few more skins on the wall. Well, Sean's comments about the whole situation and his lack of, I don't want to say transparency, but wanting to even discuss it at all made it seem like there was a rift there. And fans see that, especially a fan base like the Bills have. What do you make of all of that, and how maybe the tensions there might have led to all of this?
Well,
if I put you in kind of a bad spot here because you know all these guys.
Yeah, no, I was going to preface by saying that the problem is I love Brandon Beane, I love Sean McDermott. Truly, like they're unbelievable friends. If there is tension there, it has to be nipped in the bud. And that ultimately falls on the ownership to make that decision, which rarely yeah, dude. I mean, I would say if there is any tension, it has to be nipped in the bud. And sometimes it manifests itself in different ways. It's mitigated in different ways. In this instance, I mean, I wish I had more. This is kind of, I'm laying a goose egg here. I'm trying to find the words to say while portraying this.
No, let me help you out a little bit, because I think this puts you in this is a great thing to discuss, because it puts you in a tough spot, because you now have this whole new role in the media, doing the podcast stuff, but you are still ultra connected to everything that's gone on in there. And I tell fans all the time, like there's I think one of the things that Sean did such a good job of is really fixing the culture from a keeping things inside the building perspective. But, I think sometimes what can happen over the course of time when you keep everything in-house is that you leave everybody on the outside to kind of figure things out and put the everything together. And now we're left here with not really knowing where the fault lies, because I would make an argument that without knowing, because Sean and Brandon have never given this kind of transparency, that Sean was a little bit more involved in the roster building from what do you need? If I'm Brandon Beane and I'm going to the supermarket and I got to go to the draft and the free agency, and I got to go get a bunch of different, groceries to bring home, I'm not going to do that for my head coach and not get his say on things. So when they draft 4 straight defensive players this past April, and so I hand you 3 defensive linemen and a potential number one corner, and then I say, go do something with that, and then the defense kind of struggles throughout the season. There was injuries. Like, I also go back. It's so hard, Mitch. Like, you go back to that Kansas City game. The defense looked spectacular. Michael Hoyt, Ed Oliver in there. And then all of these injuries kind of popping up and changing the math of everything. All of that's kind of at play here. And it leaves the fans in a place. And I guess I have to be kind of the voice of the fans in all of this and wanting to know, okay, Josh Allen is going into year 9. He's in the prime of his career. What's going to be done to get the right situation around him to go and win a Super Bowl? So it's like trying to put all those things together. It's a challenge.
Without a doubt. And I mean, there's a few things to digest there. Yeah, I think people who say that you're in this infinite Super Bowl window with someone, it's a little bit naive, because there's certain things that can play out. Health of a player is always is the one thing that, I think it's my children being freaking out, so excuse me. They're also a little bit butthurt by the news today and the flu. But yeah, so what do you do? Like, injuries are one of those things that will always be ever present in the NFL, and everyone will try to put their finger on a reason why they happen. Sometimes they just happen. If there is any disconnect in this, you have to make moves. Yeah, I do think that Sean and Brandon, for a very long time, did a great job working together. And from what I saw, being in there for 5 years, there was never tension between the two up until recently, like you said. But if there is any, you have to move on. And it's up to the owner to decide who he thinks the best fit is to move on. If you feel like Brandon, I mean, also gets elevated into the president of the team, or whatever you want to call it, football operations. Yeah, I mean, he's given the reins to he's given the reins to Brandon to, I mean, find his next collaborator with. And I think, someone told me that, it was an interesting thought that, even though Sean and Brandon were brought in the same time, Brandon didn't bring Sean in. So what does that do? I don't know. I find it extremely difficult to put my finger on it. And I think that's why it's such a hot button topic of conversation. And I feel like that's why players are so torn up about it, because I think they love both these guys. And I think you in Buffalo, we've spoken about it before. It's a unique organization because no matter from top to bottom, it feels like a family, and you get vested with everyone. And that's not always felt by ownership, right? They're there to do a sole mission, which is to remove the fan aspect, remove the emotions, which is something that we're fully into as a player and someone who covers the team and a fan, to make these decisions. And it's extremely difficult. I'm having a really tough time with it. And, maybe that's why I don't make decisions. And that's why I'm just a player who tries to be friendly with everyone, but we'll see. I mean, because the thing I hate that's being pitted right now, and it's killing me, is why is it Sean and not Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same kind of conversation with the same type of is it the same hot button topic? I don't think it is. And, because you bring in guys and you can go through these lists. I mean, Brandon brought me in, so he's always going to have my vote, right? Like, and I don't know, maybe Sean was more a part of that too. And dude, it's exhausting, kind of this mental gymnastics that's gone on the last 5 hours for me and for other folks. And so all you can do truly is sit there and just praise the man, right? Because he was exceptional. Was he perfect? No. Are we any of us perfect? No. I mean, my first year, I remember, that was the infamous team meeting at training camp.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge growing moment, and we were all there for it. And it was, and to see him come from there to where he is now, it's night and day. And that just proves that you got to go through this and figure this out, and as a coach, and learn and grow. And maybe this is the growing opportunity for him to take that next step. What is it? I don't know, but yeah, I think you look at it, Josh has the most wins postseason without a Super Bowl. There's some jarring statistics that I'm sure the ownership sees that they just had to make a change.
There's only 4 teams. I'll read this stat because this is one stat that I just saw that it really blows you away. There's 4 teams in the Super Bowl era that have won a playoff game in 6 consecutive seasons. Only 4. The 91 to 96 Cowboys, the 2011 to 2018 Patriots, the 18 to 24 Chiefs, and the 2020 to 2025 Bills. Those other 3 teams have 3 Super Bowl championships. Bills don't have one single Super Bowl appearance. So to me, that's what probably this ultimately came down to was something has to change. And, I go back to, and this was just, I think, in your last year when Aaron Cromer showed up and things started to, how much they deteriorated between Sean and Brian Dable is what it is. I mean, there's been reports out there and everything like that. But, Brian Dable was like he almost had the gunslinger mentality that was perfectly positioned with the quarterback that he had. Like, that's how I felt it. Now, he did a lot of work in New England over the years, studying the run game. We talked about how much respect he had for Scarnecchia there. And I think he wanted a well-balanced attack. But Sean really wanted a well-balanced attack, so much so that I think he really took steps towards building the run game that we saw play out this year. Cromer was the start of it. Along with Brandon Beane, they built an unbelievable offensive line that you were a part of. They go out and they find the running back in James Cook. And I think that was done in earnest with a great idea of taking some of the pressure off of Josh. But what I think we've seen materialize with it is something that Brandon Beane always feared years ago. We can't lose our fastball. And I think in a way, with the wide receiver room the way that it was this year and just the inability of Dalton Kincaid to stay healthy, because when he was good, they were good in the passing game. They lost their fastball a little bit and maybe a little bit of an identity crisis because Sean wants to run the football. I'm not saying he doesn't want to throw the ball. He does.
Of course.
But there's a fine balance there between having the best quarterback in the league and wanting to be a run-first offense. And I wonder how much just that played into all this. And again, that's just a question.
Yeah.
But do you have any put your media hat on?
Yeah, put my media hat on.
Do you have any issues with how things kind of transpired with the offense from when you got there in 19 all the way to where it was in that Denver game this last weekend?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. I mean, it is weird to see a tale of two different teams in regards to philosophies and what fans and people were kind of, ready to put people on a poster for, right? Like, so when I first got there, we had talent in the offensive line, we had talent in the receiver. We could not run the ball to save our lives when we needed to. We were drop back daddies, right? We'd drop back 50, 60 times a game, put up 400 yards, but you missed that little piece of trying to be able to win first and second down. And if, it was feast or famine with the pass game, you play to your strengths. We had an exceptional wide receiver core and that was that. You flip the script and then you bring in James Cook, you bring in Aaron Cromer, and then we had Diggs for a year or two, but we turn into a run heavy offense and set up play action and you drop back when you need to. It was two completely different ends of the spectrum with two different kind of, like you said, personalities at the helm. Brian Daboll is an interesting bird to say the least. It's feast or famine. He's an exceptional personality, an exceptional mind, prone to going through different emotional swings that sometimes would manifest in very interesting ways. Then you have Joe Brady, who's pretty even keel. Well, he had Ken Dorsey, who, of course, he's infamous for his explosion on the sideline or in the press box, but that's really not the guy you got every single day. I mean, he was extremely competitive, but a very kind guy. And then you get Joe Brady, who's monotone is not the right word because he's a young dude, a charismatic guy, but I don't see. All right, so if this is the case, then you have to bring in an offensive guy in, right? Like, if that's the case, and if not, if you trust Josh, you trust that the offense is taken care of by Josh, you bring a defensive guy. I just don't see how you can be upset with where the offense was now. I mean, because they were still able to bring in a guy like Brandon Cooks, who was able to, of course, there was a few drops here, but he got the top off. Yes, you maybe have fallen short of the trade deadline. And that's pretty frustrating for a guy like Jalen Waddle, which would be pretty cool to have. I'm just so lost. And Matt, I'm so sorry that I am, because it's just, I wish I had the answer. Put the media hat on. if I'm truly putting the media hat on, it's not that surprising that change was made. I'm devastated personally because I love the man. Yes, I mean, there's statistics that are mind-boggling in regards to how many playoff wins a team has without a Super Bowl or all this stuff. And yes, it's gutting every time. Did I ever play in those games and feel like coaching let us down? No, I feel like the players, we let the team down. And maybe that's a coach's part for getting us there, but I felt locked in as everyone in the playoffs. Sean had us locked in. He took care of us. We were in our best mental headspace, and we just fell short through the fault of our own, right? Like if you look at last game, and maybe this is a very unpopular opinion, but it's mine. Is it a catch? I don't know. Is it an interception? Who knows? But if you're sitting there at the end saying that's the problem after having 5 turnovers, and that's just part of the game. That's part of it. I feel like it's no one person's fault. It's no one play's fault. There's 1,000 things that are put together in this thing. And is it the straw that broke the camel's back? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Sorry. That's more word vomiting that I just had to get off my chest. It's an interesting deal. I never felt unprepared or undercoached when it came to the playoffs.
No, it's important. I think that's important context that people need to understand. I want to ask you a question, but I feel like I've asked you a question. I've asked you probably 1,000 questions since I've met you. I would
Love
guess
it.
somewhere in that
Sure.
range, right? And one thing,
and usually I can answer them except for today somehow. So sorry.
no, but in the locker room, you had this way of answering a question while also saying that's probably a better question for X. Because if I'm asking you about X and your Z, okay, we want to make sure that but I want to ask you about Josh Allen.
Okay.
And I'm not asking you for any specific insight into his thinking or what he's going through. And that is a better question for him. But I'm curious, what role should he have in this transition? Because my sense would be he was very close with Sean McDermott. I mean, Sean said as much over the last couple of weeks, close with Brandon Beane as well. I think that's one of the things that makes this thing special is how good of a relationship he has with both of those guys. If you're Brandon in the organization, how much do you pull into Josh into this process? Or is it something that you should do while getting his insights into it, but making the decision separate from what he wants? It's very rare that you have a player with this kind of pull when making a decision like this, or that should have this kind of pull. Like, where do you land on all that?
Yeah, great question. And I would say 90, there's 99 times out of 100, I would say that you have to remove Church and State. Now that 1 in 100 is Josh Allen. He's coming into year 9 at this franchise. The one constant, the one thing is on the Pagula's mind is that he is going to be a stalwart of this franchise, barring something extraordinary happening. He's played a lot of football. He's seen a lot of football. He knows exactly what he wants. He's seen, like you said, different tides going, right? Going from a pass-happy offense to a run-happy offense to what he sees from a leadership standpoint and all this stuff. That's a guy you absolutely bring in these conversations. And that's where a guy where you have Brandon Beane in there and you've kept Brandon Beane, that's your decision you made. Excellent. Use that relationship that he has with Josh, that exceptional relationship, and bring it in, because yes, it's exceptional and they go golfing and they have these great relationships, but it's still the main thing, which is what's going to make this organization primo. How am I going to play my best football? How am I going to be my most confident while also amplifying everyone else's talent and personality and their ability to play football too? So to answer that question, you have to have him in on these things. And he's earned that right. He's earned that opportunity. He's an NFL MVP and a guy who absolutely deserves to be in the dance and deserves to have an opportunity to be in this thing, because he's going to outlive so many players who play for this organization. I mean, I feel like I played forever for this organization, and Josh is going to have plenty of more centers unless they draft one and keep him on forever, right? Like, there's a lifespan in this league. There's a lifespan, and there's different generations, and not generations, but installments of the same Buffalo Bill team he'll be on for the next 10 years, right? Or so. You're going to have these things, these tides and these waves. And he absolutely plays a role in all of this now. And he should be, because he's earned that right.
Got a couple of super chats here, getting them in here. I still like Robert Saleh. If we're looking for a defensive coach who elevates his players like McDermott, Sean seems like the right coach for the Steelers. And yeah, obviously the Pennsylvania ties, that could definitely be in play. Saleh's going to, but I agree with you. I think it's more going to be, you're moving off of Sean McDermott. I don't know if you're going to get a better defensive-minded coach to come in here and take the reins. And I think, if you're making this move, it's almost a philosophy shift in a way.
Has to be.
That, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the only way you can really justify a big move like this, is it has to be a philosophy change. Robert Saleh is an exceptional coach. He's got a little shit to him too, man. Like I just remember playing that guy, and just every time he'd beat the Bills, he would just kind of irked me the way he would act. But I think that's what you want in a coach, like a guy who's fired up. That's a rally cry for a team. That's a rally cry for a guy that can galvanize an organization, and that's what you're going to need in the next guy coming in. You're going to need a guy who can be galvanized, because there might be a few folks who are looking for change, but there's a huge contingency of guys who are going to be a little bit irked by how this has gone down. And he's going to have to walk in, and he's going to have to immediately win over a locker room. So not only X's and O's, but how you build relationships with players. Now, Sean is from the Andy Reid tree. I feel like he was pretty progressive in that regards, and how he interacted with coaches, or players rather, from that tree. You have to bring in charismatic isn't the right word, because you can have all the charisma in the world and still not be a really good football coach. You have to be a guy who can. What's interesting is, like, what are your thoughts on Davis Webb?
So we talked about him on the last show. The concern I have at the start. So first of all, I did a story on Davis Webb when he was with the Bills, and he took me through his week, very chronicled on the podcast. Like, he was scouting opposing teams' cornerbacks for the coordinator. He was running meetings. Like, he was a coach before he became a coach.
Right.
And so I have no hold up there. The one concern you have is, like, okay, he hasn't called plays, but Joe Brady didn't call plays before he called plays. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder how big of a lift that is for Davis Webb to come in and run an organization while having to do that part for the first time. But you would know better than I do. So what do you think about it?
Oh, well, no, well, to answer your question, I think you raised some pretty valuable topics of conversation, right? Like, is this his first time calling plays? He's a young dude, but you can't refute, like you've seen in the past, that he loves football, that he's got a gift. He has a gift for coaching. It's the one thing he's always wanted to do. This playing career just kind of happened for him. Like, he always knew he wanted to be a coach, and then he goes and gets baptized in the Sean Payton system. What an incredible baptism, and we're seeing what he's done over there. I think another topic of conversation that comes up with that people are interested in is, it's well documented that his relationship with Josh is pretty intimate in regards to just, like, they're really good buddies. I don't think they're smooching, but they're good buds, right? Like that kind of intimacy. But does that play a role in it? I think in this instance, it could help. Both guys are in different phases of their lives than when they were in their early 20s in regards to understanding that this is a business, and you can't. You look at a guy like Sean McVay was 30 years old when he took over. Of course, he was calling plays. Grant Udinski's getting some love here in Jacksonville. He didn't really call any plays this year, but he's a brilliant mind, and I think that plays a long way. And this new phase of football, which is this young contingency of guys who come in and kind of bring a different energy, maybe that's what they're looking for. Now, they could be looking for the exact opposite, which would be hard to understand. I think whoever gets Davis Webb, and selfishly, of course, he's a good buddy of mine too. I would love to see him there, but I think he would surprise people. He's going to surprise people with his ability to command a room full of men. And he's had that understanding of the foot. And I think he gets that from his knowledge of football, his knowledge of what he wants from a team and that vision. And I think he's got a clear.
He comes from a coaching family.
Comes from a coaching family. He's had a vision of what he wants and how he wants to coach, and he's been coaching. He coached the players when he was here. in Buffalo as a player, and he commanded respect from his peers. What he said held merit. And I think when you look at something like that, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I could definitely warm up to the idea of Davis Webb. I think what I always thought would be the next transition would maybe be offensive coordinator if Brady got a head coaching job.
Yeah.
And just to let him doggy paddle before he's got to do the full length of the
There's
pool.
10 vacancies, my friend.
Right.
Who the hell are you going to get these people? Yeah.
I know. It's I just saw a meme actually that was really hilarious. You'd appreciate it. You'd appreciate a good meme, Mitchell.
Oh, like you wouldn't believe.
It was a Walter White clip from Breaking Bad looking at his phone because he probably just a drug deal gone wrong, like panicking. And the caption was John Harbaugh and Kevin Stefanski seeing this morning that the Bills head coaching job is open, freaking out. But I mean, this is going to be a very much sought after job.
Oh, the most sought after. How can you not? It has to shake the whole foundation of this coaching cycle. Every person sees that and they understand that this has changed everything. People are going to be knocking at the door. Brandon Beane's phone's blowing up to get an opportunity, right? Another name that's really interesting, and I hate already talking about new names because for some reason my relationship with Sean feels like this is somewhat disrespectful, but for putting my media hat on, Clint Kubiak. I mean, I don't know if you watched Seattle play the other day. You're talking about coaching pedigree. He's exceptional. He's an exceptional coach. And if you want to make that change from defensive mind to offensive mind, it's a pretty viable option, in my opinion.
There's a connection there too. I mean, Josh and Sam Darnold are super close friends. So if, I'm sure they've been talking about the dude calling plays out there, and Sam's had himself a really nice season. I think Clint Kubiak is probably definitely in tier A, but maybe the top of the list and maybe on the wish list of a lot of. He reminds me of this year's version of Ben Johnson. I don't think it's been the same kind of sustained success that Ben had in Detroit, but he was very cerebral about his own head coaching opportunities. So he took the right job, and obviously it went really well in Chicago. I love the Kubiak idea.
Well, and then it comes down to Pagula's patience, right? Because all these primo coaches that are still coaching, you have to follow the rules. And then does patience play a role in this? I hope it does. If you're making a decision like this, I hope you stick in there and stick with your guns and take your time. I know there's urgency always because the draft comes up at the end of next month, but you have to get this one right. That's the biggest thing. And I think everyone can kind of share that sentiment.
Last one here, super chat. Do they make this move if Josh Allen wasn't on board with it? He clearly was on board with it, or they don't care about his opinion, right? Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky because
that's interesting.
I don't think so I think somebody that's probably heavily involved in this decision is the new CC or COO Pete Welly, who's been in place for the last couple of years. Become kind of like Terry Pagula's right-hand man. I'd imagine he had a role in this. He's going to play a role in finding the new head coach. I don't know. Do you think it would be something that Terry Pagula just walks up to Josh Allen after the season in the locker room and said, "Hey, cool if we fire Sean McDermott"? I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's a great question. It's a prudent question. I mean, but I think you look at Josh and Sean's relationship, it'd be cruel and unusual to put that on him at that time. Right. So in my opinion, I think Terry decided to take that weight off of him and make this on his own. Could I be totally wrong? Sure. And part of me wishes I hopes that I never find out and that'll be a beautiful thing. But I don't think that Terry would have done something like that, especially knowing Sean and Josh's relationship.
Thank you so much for watching this on this Monday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me, Mitch. Let everybody know we're going to collab this post so people can watch it on your channel as well. Let them know where they can find Monday Mornings with Mitch.
Well, I would first like to, Matt, appreciate you having me on. I'd like to apologize for the mumbling and fumbling. I feel like I had a better idea of what I was going to say, and then when push came to shove, your relationship with these folks and the time you spent and there's a story. I don't know. I'm going to finish with this. There's a story. I dealt with severe anxiety for a very long time, as many players do, until I got the sufficient help that I needed, probably in 2021. But There was a game in Tennessee we're playing during COVID. I show up to the facility early in Tennessee, and I'm in a tizzy, dude. I don't know how I'm going to go out there. I don't know how I'm going to play in a really bad way. And it was, everyone's got their cross to bear in this league, and this was mine. And when you see players who knew you back then, you just kind of takes you back in regards to you apologize for the person you were, because you're always trying to be a better version. And I didn't seek the help I needed until year 7. That being said, it kind of, Matt Warswick, who's Sean's right-hand man, kind of catches wind. Nate catches wind, and they go tell Sean they don't know if I'm going to be up for the game. And Sean, and this is a big moment in our season. I don't know if it was 2021 or 2020. I think I might have gotten help after this game, but it was a huge pivotal moment against a very good Tennessee team. And he brings me into his office. It sounds literally like an hour before kickoff. They have to make a decision if I'm up or down 5 or 10 minutes before, so maybe an hour and a half before. And he could care less about me as the football player. I think that was so profound. He cared about me as a person. He looked at me in the eye in this big moment as the head coach, and he said, football is a small part of your life. I know it feels like life and death at times, but you're more than that. You're a man, you're a husband, you're a father. And, I trust you. I believe in you. I love you. And for some reason, that gave me the power to go out there and do it. And after that, I was forever on Sean McDermott's. I mean, he will ever hold a very important place in my heart, because in those moments when their stakes are at their highest, that's when the character of a man shows up, and his character shine bright during that moment. Now, pivoting, if you would like to see anything that we do with Monday Mornings with Mitch, it's all over YouTube, and we can all use the help we can get. Matt, I'm so sorry for the bumbling. I also appreciate, more than anything, an opportunity to vent. I feel like it was mostly you guiding a venting session, and I very much appreciate it. Hopefully you will trust me to come on and give more insightful stuff next time. But it's a pretty powerful day as an ex-player, as a fan, and I totally get it. I mean, I was watching the game with a neighbor of mine who's from Buffalo, and just the involvement and the what this organization, this team means to people is it's uncanny, and it's powerful and beautiful, and it evokes emotions. And I think that's pretty cool, pretty profound. So who knows how this is going to go out? I'm sure we'll talk about it here soon, but I appreciate having me on, brother.
Well, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. As always, one of my favorites. And listen, part of this thing too is the bumbling through it all. Like, that's what I do most of the time on this show anyway.
No, you don't. You're crushed.
Getting through it all. But no, this was a great conversation. Like, it provides real context into it. Like, trying to figure out, there's such a human element to sports. It's why I got into this business to begin with. I would get an ESPN, the magazine, growing up. And my favorite time of the week was getting that magazine, just so I can learn about all these different players that I got to watch on Sundays. Yeah. And that, to me, is what makes this go. Even still, in the year 2026, when we're in this 248 character limit, digital clip video era of life, it's still about the people behind the scenes. And I think, and I said this on the show earlier, the arc of Sean McDermott is going to be really studied, and appreciated more as time goes on, because of the transformation that he went through over the course of his tenure. And it ends disappointing. I think everybody that is a Bills fan wanted them to get over the hump together. I mean, he put so much equity into it all.
No doubt.
But we talked about it too on the show. The Peyton Manning, the John Elway, like, just the change to be able to evaluate everything, how it's been going, and maybe just make one change that is coming from the outside looking in. Yeah. Sometimes could be the difference. And it's a hard pill to swallow, because I think, to your point, Deion just posted about him, and you start to feel the emotion about it. Like, he meant a lot to a lot of people.
No, without a doubt. And it's interesting, and this is kind of going off topic, and I'm not comparing, it's hard to compare these two guys, because Andy Reid is, maybe one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Sean has that opportunity. Who knows? But it was kind of an interesting arc of Andy's exit in Philly, kind of coming up short. Of course, he made the big dance, and then going on to do a very good job at another franchise. I'm hoping Sean has that opportunity to taste gold one day. And yes, it's not in Buffalo. And more than anything, I want the Bills to be tearing down Buffalo, New York. I want them greasing the poles because people are trying to climb them. And I think maybe this is the move that pushes that over, as uncomfortable as it makes most of us. But I'm really hoping the man on the other side finds grace and success as well. And I think he will. So I appreciate you, Matt.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Be good, man. Take it easy.
Take care.